Hi students, I am Bazi from Meslova Dizzy Classroom. In previous session, we discussed about how the organism on this planet respond to particular situations and how we understand the response to stimuli. Here, the basic reason for respond to any stimulus in an organism is the nervous system. You know, the nervous system coordinate and control the every activity of our body, and how you perform different types of action, it depends on the nervous system and its ability and adaptability to the conditions. You know, in higher organisms including us, from arthropoda to mammalia. Arthropod means the organisms having jointed legs like cockroaches, to higher organisms including us, the human beings, that is mammalian group, which secretes the milk. And almost all these organisms have nervous system, and with addition to nervous system, it has an endocrine system which secretes the hormones, and both endocrine and nervous system together form into neuroendocrine system, which coordinates and controls every activity in our body. You know, actually what happens and how they coordinate with each other, basically it has three types of system work together to coordinate every activity or every function to a particular stimulus. That is receiving system, nervous system and effector system, and all of these three are working together and they perform the activity according to the stimulus. Students, you know, the basic reason for this coordination is the nervous system. And whenever you think about what is the basic function or a primary function of a nervous system, you know, the basic function of a nervous system is coordinate all the activities of our body. It enables the body to respond and adapt according to the changes occur in the outside as well as inside of the body. And also it plays very important role in receiving, sending and processing of information in the form of electrical signals, which we call as impulses. It helps all other systems of our body work together to perform the actions, like voluntary actions which involves the process of thinking, whereas involuntary actions which involves various types of processes which occur in our body, that is hungry, pain or pleasure or thirst, etc., which involves various types of body internal metabolic activities like respiration, that is involving breathing, and digestion and circulation, that is heartbeat, and excretion. Almost all these things are involuntary activities. You know how the nervous system is coordinating and what is coordinating all these voluntary and involuntary actions, and what the nervous system is made up of. You know, the nervous system is made up of a basic cell we called as neuron or nerve cell. It is the structural and functional unit of nervous system. You know, neuron is the longest cell in human body and is about 100 microns in length and 0.1 millimicrons in diameter. Like a cell, neuron is formed of three parts, that is a cell body, or we call it as cyton, and a branched projections from the cyton called as dendroids. Long process from cell body, that is axon. The axon is surrounded by a specialized insulated sheath called myelin sheath. This sheath interrupted at regular intervals called nodes of Ranvier. This sheath made up of Schwann cells and chiefly consisting of fatty material. Like a normal cell, it includes mitochondria, ribosomes and microtubules. Each neuron is connected to other neuron by a connection called as synapses. Such a connections we may found about 10 billion in number. We may found in our nervous system. The information carried through one nerve cell to another nerve cell through these gaps, that is synapses, in the form of electrical or chemical or both type of signals to the central nervous system. Whether it may be a voluntary action or involuntary action or reflex actions or learned actions, almost all the information is carrying by this nervous system to the central nervous system and then returned back to the effector organ to perform the action. This information carries to different types of paths or ways or direction by the nerve cell, and it depends on the urgency of response, the information which is carried in the form of electrical impulses. These nerve system works depends on different types of nerves like sensory neurons, motor neurons and a mixing of both of the nerve cells. The sensory or efferent neurons which carry information from the sense organs to the central nervous system to perform the action. Here the sensory nervous system senses the changes in the outside of the environment and carry the information to the brain or spinal cord in the form of impulses. And another system, that is motor nerves or motor neurons, which carry the information from the brain or spinal cord in the form of response via motor nerves to the effector organ to perform the action immediately. Mixed nerves which carry the both type of information and which connect both sensory as well as motor neurons to perform its activity. If you see the reflex actions like any touching of any hot utensil or sharp cuts by an object or sudden light fall or any other thing, we can perform action immediately. These are reflex actions. We immediately respond to those actions. In this action, how it happens, what the process is going on in these actions, have a look on this. In these actions, the dendroids of receptor or sensory neurons quickly relieve messages to central nervous system, maximum to spinal cord, in the form of electrical impulses. The spinal cord that sends information to effector organ in the form of electrical impulses via motor nerves in the form of response. The stimulus is detected by sensory receptors and body is responding to that stimuli in the form of effector motor nerves. A stimulus is detected by sensory nerves through receptor cells and the body is responding to that stimulus through motor effector organs, and both the cells are working together to perform or to respond for a stimulus in very quickly to avoid the threats. Generally, if you see, the reflex actions involve spinal cord for a specific response. Otherwise, the thinking process of brain may take time and delay the response. It may cause harm to the animal. The path taken by the nerve cell for a response is called as reflex arc, and which path is taken by nerve cell, and it basically depends on the urgency of the response. You know, it take any of the path, maybe two paths are there, that is from receptor to spinal cord via sensory nerves and then to effector, and whereas or in another path from receptor to brain via sensory nerves and then to effector, and it chooses depends on the shortest way for a response. By this observation, we understand that the voluntary or involuntary actions in our body is coordinated by nervous system as a whole. You know, this nervous system is divided into two parts. One is the central nervous system and another one is peripheral nervous system. You know, the central nervous system is made up of the brain and spinal cord. You know, this brain is very peculiar, and this brain perform various types of actions in our daily life. Without that, we can't survive on this planet. And this brain is located in a special type of bony box called as cranium or skull. The brain is made up of 75% of water, weighs about 1.3 to 1.5 kgs, and about 2% of total body weight of an individual. Approximately consisting of over 100 billion neurons. Each neuron has 10,000 connections, making brain network of 1000 trillion connections. Information in brain travels at a speed of 430 kilometers per hour or 119 meters per second through nerve connections called synapses. It's the command center for entire body. It receives information from our sense organs. It controls our body movement and our activities in our daily life. To understand its complexity, scientists had divided it into different parts and regions. See these parts like cerebrum, cerebellum, diencephalon, midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. The cerebrum. The largest section of brain is cerebrum, which is divided into two hemispheres, that is cerebral hemispheres, and which is right cerebral hemisphere and left. The outer layer of brain called cortex, which is having only 1/8 in inch thick. They appear as elevations called gyri and depressions called sulci. Hence, we are intelligent when compared to other organisms on this planet because we have a lot of gyri and sulci, but other organism does not have because they have smooth brain. That's why they lack the intelligence. Sulci are prominent, which divided each sphere into 4 lobes. The frontal lobe for personality and emotions and higher thinking skills and problem solving and controlling movements. And another one is temporal lobe for hearing and other senses, helps in language and reading. The parietal lobe for senses, attention and language, and occipital lobe helps your eyes to see, including recognition of shapes and colors. Next part is diencephalon, found between cerebrum and midbrain. It is consisting of thalamus and hypothalamus. The thalamus, it is the center of the brain, relays sensory motor information to the cortex and helps in consciousness, sleep and alertness. And 12 pairs of cranial nerves are carrying information from our senses through and from the brain and the body. And next part is hypothalamus, which wakes you up in the morning, or adrenaline flowing when you are in test or athlete, or if you take any emotions of frustration, other thing, it releases the hormone, that is adrenaline. Next part is midbrain, located below cerebrum on top of the brain stem, responsible for vision and auditory reflexes. Next part is cerebellum, key role in motor control, muscle coordination and spatial navigation. Under it is a brainstem which connects the brainstem to spinal cord and nerve paths that runs all the way down to and sending and receiving from your senses. The brainstem includes pons and medulla oblongata. You know, the pons located below the midbrain in the brainstem reflex actions like chewing, tasting and saliva production we can observe. And next part, that is medulla oblongata, located at the lowest part of brainstem, connects to the spinal cord. It responsible for regulating functions like heart and blood vessel function, digestion, respiration, swallowing, coughing, sneezing and blood pressure. It's known for center for respiration. You know, medulla oblongata controls heart, body reflexes like vomiting, coughing, sneezing and swallowing. And this is the structure of the brain. You know, the other part of the brain is called as spinal cord, and this is one of the part in central nervous system. It is the link between brain and nerves in the rest of the body. It has four regions: cervical, thoracic, lumbar and different types of nerves, that is efferent and efferent nervous system emerging from the vertebral column. It is almost cylindrical in shape. Unlike in the brain, the white matter is towards the periphery, whereas the gray matter is towards the center. Whereas in brain, the gray matter is outside and the white matter is inside. In adults, it measures approximately 42 centimeters in women and 45 centimeters in men. It is the origin of all the 31 pairs of nerves through the nerve canal, that is vertebral column. The spinal cord, just like a brain, surrounded by meninges called pyometer, arachnoid and durometer. It's surrounded by cerebrospinal fluid. The nerves that originate from the brain called as cranial nerves, and the nerves which are originated from the spinal cord is a spinal nerves. The cranial nerves are 12 pairs in number, whereas the spinal nerves are 31 pairs in number. And the spinal and cranial nerves work together and carry the information in the form of electrical impulses and coordinate each and every movement of our body and take and are responsible for taking decisions and responding to a stimuli in our daily life. All these cranial and spinal nerves working together to carry the information in the form of electrical impulses and to convey the response. You know, the total electrical output of our brain is about below even 20 watts, and it uses low electrical impulses. That's such an efficiency, we can find in our brain, you know. And also the spinal cord, you know, the spinal cord is very important in lower organisms. The scientists like Da Vinci and Stanley Hales both are working on animals on spinal cord. If they observe that if the brain is damaged, even muscular function is worked. If the spinal cord is damaged, the organism is died immediately. That's why in lower organisms, spinal cord playing very important role in organisms response to stimuli. The brain is the miraculous masterpiece of evolution and biology, and this performs a lot of functions and lot of activities and responds to each and every stimuli, voluntary or involuntarily, and it performs an action and reason for survival of an organism on this planet. It took 11 billion years to build a brain. In this evolutionary process, our brain is a masterpiece. You know, the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system, how they are working together. And in next session, we discuss about the central nervous system coordinating with peripheral nervous system and also with endocrine system which secretes the hormones, and how all these together to perform their activity in coordination of our entire system. Thank you students. Bye bye.